CJ, come down here already, shouted your father. Rolling your eyes, you shouted back, "It's an online game, Dad. I can't pause it." Ugh, boomers, you thought. Sadly, your continued online play was soon interrupted by error 33-33, which was a loss of connection. God damn it! You kicked against your table to push yourself sitting on your gamer chair to the door of your room. "What do you want, Dad?" you shouted at your father, who stood in the hallway, internet cable in hand. "The puppet from that village. You forgot to bring him his groceries." "So what?" "You know these country bumpkins get eaten by the city. Now go back in the kitchen." You groaned, rolling your eyes. Ever since the big city's dam broke a couple of weeks ago, the people of what you knew as the Valley had to evacuate, leave everything behind, and be placed inside of various homes in the city. The fixing of the dam seemingly having halted due to budgetary issues, meaning the country puppets would be stuck in the city for a while. You were the daughter of Bodo Seammeister. Your name, CJ Seammeister. You were a puppet of short stature. You're made of pretty lavender-colored cotton felt, already making you above average in looks. You needed glasses. In fact, your eyesight was so bad that you just barely didn't classify as legally blind. You had an oval-shaped turquoise nose and tongue, and the inside of your mouth was black. You were usually dressed in jeans and white shirts, and your hair was colored yellow, reaching just past your hips. Your father, Bodo, was a tall, overweight giant of a puppet who tried to move as little as possible, while stuffing his gut with what he called chocolate dogs, simply hot dog buns with chocolate bars shoved into them, with a squeeze of whipped cream on top. His laziness made you his delivery girl. He was a landlord by trade, your family owning a total of 6 apartment complexes in the city. Apparently your ancestors were the architects of them, making you sometimes wonder how they would have reacted if they knew, rather than evolving the family, it would lead to everyone just being lazy and living off of the rent of the tenants. The country bumpkin, as your father had so eloquently put it, was a puppet by the name of Wally Darling. He came from a small neighborhood in the valley called home, and he had a really difficult time getting used to the big city. So much, in fact, he had locked himself inside his apartment and refused to leave it. And so, why did your dear old dad even bother keeping him around, especially since he didn't even seemingly have a job? Well, the big city paid the rent of every refugee in the city, and your father had managed to get double the monthly rent from the city, and the apartment was worth it. And he therefore really wanted you to make absolutely sure Wally was happy and stayed. Annoyed, you got up from your chair, walking downstairs into the kitchen. Of course, the biggest, most expensive apartment in the building was the one you and your father lived in. You grabbed a bag of groceries, and with a flip of the middle finger, you said goodbye to your father. The apartment building was a little dingy, even though it had just been modernized with solar panels, new installation, and wallpapers. Your dad still managed to forget replacing the flickering ceiling lights in the stairwell. And he also never bothered finding out why it was always smelling so moist in here. Whenever you caught him in a bad mood while asking about it, he always shouted at you, "If you don't like it, fix yourself when you own the building." What a dick. You descended the dreary stairs to the 3rd floor of the building. There, a freshly painted red door stood at the end of a hallway. About 6 puppet families could fit on each floor, minus the 4th floor, which was entirely dedicated to the decadent apartment of your father. This meant that 18 puppet families fit into the complex. You gently knocked on Wally's apartment door, and after waiting 3 minutes, you impatiently rang the doorbell. After another painful minute of waiting, the door finally opened. Just a peek, though. You could barely see Wally through the slit of the opening. "I got your food," you grunted, holding the bag before him. Wally blinked, opening the door to take it. He was looking away, like an intimidated puppy. Thanks," he stuttered, though he still didn't grab the bag. Ahem, you shook it. Yeah, sorry. Quickly his hand shot forward, taking the bag from him. As he looked into it, he exhaled over his mouth. It almost sounded like a sigh that was just a little too shy to fully manifest. "What's wrong? Your father always packs so much meat." "Don't tell me you're weak. I mean, just tell him you're vegan or something." Wally looked up from the bag. No, I just try not to eat too much meat. I feel sorry for the animals." He raised an eyebrow skeptically. Anyways, thank you very much for your kindness. It's CJ, you said. "Yes, is that really your full name?" You nodded. "Really? Just the 2 letters, a C and a J?" To Wally, a name had importance, and just the name CJ seemed a little lackluster. Well, to tell you the truth, it's actually written Seejay. He blinked. That changed things. A little. Wally blushed and then chuckled. So literally CJ. Yes. What was up with him? He acted so weird all the time. "Can I come in?" he asked nonchalantly, but with narrowed eyes. Sure, he said with a slightly livelier voice. But when you didn't enter, he looked perplexed. "You country puppets are hilarious." You rubbed your chin. My online game was ruined, so might as well. "I'm not coming in, but do you want to go to the mall with me?" Mall? The last time I was there, they called me terrible slurs. I don't even know why. All I did was say hello to everyone. Ugh. You sighed and grabbed his hand, making him blush. Confidently, you strutted out of the building with him, behind you. And despite his protest, you shoved him into your car, slamming the door shut before he could flee. Are you kidnapping me?" he asked. "No, we're just going to the mall. And in the meantime, you tell me what the hell is wrong with you." Wally fidgeted. He was completely intimidated by you, something he had never felt from a female puppet before. "Are all you seated puppets really like this?" he asked as you started driving. "I mean, we know what we want. And what we want now. And right now, I want you to go to the mall with me." You shrugged. "And since you're such a pushover, you didn't protest." He exhaled through his mouth sharply. "I'm going to show you that the big city is amazing, and that your first experience was simply because you have no idea how to act." The mall was only a 10-minute drive away. After parking your car, the two of you descended into the grand mall of the big city. In home, all we have is one grocery store. It was owned by my good friend Howdy Pillar. Yeah, but we aren't here for grocery shopping. You pulled Wally into a clothing store for men. Confused, he stepped behind you. I don't think this is a shop meant for you. You scoffed at him. Of course. It's for you, silly. I don't have any money. But I have, you sighed. I can't let you pay. He was completely taken aback, and that was the first time he actually raised his voice at you. How cute. Yet at the same time, as he was so offended, or at least pretended to be, a comfort overcame him that actually made him blush. It was a feeling similar to when he was in the neighborhood. You picked out a few nice jackets and t-shirts. You threw them into an empty changing cubicle before pushing Wally inside. From the curtain, he looked out at you. Are you sure you're gonna pay for this? I have a card, so yeah, I am. Your patience was beginning to run thin, and you could see that in your facial expression. Oh, okay then. You smirked. Now this enthusiasm, that's what you enjoyed. Smugly, you sat down on a bench in front of the cubicle, waiting for him to be finished. It took a while for the both of you to agree on an outfit, and by the time you were finished, you probably had at least shoved him into half of the outfits that were available in the store. You ended up with what was essentially a black version of his regular fit, but it actually looked super snug on him. Reluctantly, he even accepted you paying for him. You and Wally then took a breather at a nearby coffee shop. I, take a normal coffee. Maybe with cream? He sighed. Sure. What? I just don't want her to work too much. But his jaw dropped as you stepped at the counter. I take a venti decaf Java chip frappuccino, almond milk, 5 equal, add hazelnut, extra frap chips, whipped cream, extra ice, extra caramel, and mocha drizzle inside a cup. You pause for the barista to take note. And he just takes a regular. Wally looked confused, but the barista's right eye was twitching. He knew that that order was torture. And when your drinks were done, he couldn't help himself but say, "Why did you order that?" You took a sip of the sweet drink through a straw. Tastes good. But you tortured her. The both of you sat down on a nearby bench. It's her job. She gets paid for it. I gave her money, didn't I? I mean, yes, but you didn't even tip. Quickly, you put a finger on his lips. You strike me as someone who doesn't like doing things for himself. Like you always do things to appease someone or something. I think that's cute. You smirked. But, in that case, the city will devour you whole and spit you out like the trash that you are. He blushed hard. You gotta want things, right? Things just for yourself. He let go of his lips, but he just stared at his coffee, flustered. Did you just make him horny? But no, he just went into thought. He always did what others told him. Barnaby whenever he had a new stupid idea or recipe. Julie when she wanted to make a new cake. Or even Howdy with the one joke equals $1 policy. He never actually really wanted to tell these jokes. He just wanted to make Howdy happy. The dollar didn't matter. And then his thoughts reached home. No, not the neighborhood, but home, the entity he had lived inside of. And I told him what to do every day, to the point where he was practically worshipping it. And now, he was on his own. His brain replayed the moment the house realized he was leaving due to the flood. Wally? He was conflicted. Technically, he was still doing someone a favor. In fact, technically right now he was still doing someone a favor. You. But then again, you gave him the same type of comfort home gave him. But the words you spoke, they were so much more appealing. Wally, should he listen to you from now on? At least until home was cleaned up. Maybe a bit longer. You snapped your fingers in front of his eyes. Wally, darling! Finally, he snapped out of his daze. Yeah? Are you even listening to me? He took a sip of his coffee before looking at you. What do you want to do? But he just blushed and looked away. I don't know, actually. I guess paint. I really like doing that. You inhaled to say, how about something less boring, but you quickly came to the conclusion that that was too soon. You already made a lot of progress today. And I would also like to spend more time with you, if that's okay. You nodded and smiled. And to what exactly? He pretended like he didn't know what you meant, but he did. His blush was too telling. Go on, say it. I'd like you to tell me more things I should do. Disappointed, you raised an eyebrow. I mean, I'd be choosing on my own to do what you want. That's different, right? Ugh, can't teach a dog a new trick in one day, I guess. You finished your drinks, but after throwing away the cups, your gaze shifted to another clothing store. Okay, Wally, you wanna do what I want? Tell me, how quiet can you be? If it really depends on something. You hushed seductively. What do you mean? You smirked and grabbed him by his collar, dragging him into the store. It was one that was older, and not many customers either. Not even the clerk seemed interested in being here. So there was zero chance he would probably approach one of you and be like, hey, can I help you? Yeah, like that. That's what you needed right now. Without anyone noticing, you slipped with the painter into the changing cubicle, where you pushed Wally against the wall. His eyes widened as you pressed your soft body against his. Wally was a synthetic doll, and so was everyone else in home. He never had felt a cotton puppet before. As you pressed your lips onto his, hungrily and demanding at the same time. His eyes rolled back as he felt your tongue enter his mouth, your organs quickly meeting just behind his lips. He moaned quietly, while he knew any loud sound would mean the end of this. Your right hand slammed against the wall just behind his ear to give you more purchase. His tongue gently rubbed against yours, slick and wet. Yours tasted like the strange sweet concoction the barista made. That was an insult to the word coffee. His eyes moved down to your chest, and with shaking hands he took hold of your hips. He could feel your lips perk up in enjoyment. Maybe he didn't need home anymore to make decisions for himself. Maybe he just needed you to make him feel like he was his own man. Wally felt your other hand slip into his pants. He hummed loudly. A puppet never touched him there before. Your hand was so soft and warm. His legs felt like jelly, and Wally felt as if he could pass out in pure pleasure at any moment. Thank you to the people who are supporting me on Ko-fi. You guys are keeping me alive. Special thanks to my little darling members, D's Nuts, Nicodemus D, Cat Cove, Kaya Abyss, Bit, Zings X3, Melufia, Lavender Cheese, Muffin, A Simp, Hella, Nexrist, AJ Anime Girl, and Hopeful. Your support is greatly appreciated, and thank you very much for your kindness.